Hey, this is Melainey Gunning, and if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my great friend, Scott Ferguson.
Hey, Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson, and today I get to have a conversation with somebody that helps me out with, we'll just call it my day job. I've been a real estate agent for 22 years, and Melainey Gunning has been a key integral part of my business as one of my preferred mortgage lenders. And she's going to come on and talk to us a little bit about purchasing or refinancing a home during this COVID crisis and beyond. She's a really big proponent of not really worrying so much and focusing on the process and just always knowing that this too shall pass. So without further ado, break out your notebooks because she's going to drop some serious knowledge nuggets regarding mortgages and life in general. So without further ado, here's my good friend, Melainey Gunning. Hey, time to shine today, Varsity Squad. It's Scott Ferguson, and I got a real treat. You guys hear me interview a lot of people that I maybe only know virtually or that are coaches that I strategically align with, but this person is someone that I did business with, actually pressed flesh and shook hands and networked with here in South Florida. As a lot of you know, that my day job, if you will, is a real estate agent here in South Florida. Miss Melainey Gunning, who is a fantastic rock star mortgage broker, is going to come on and drop some knowledge nuggets on you, especially during this, 950th day of quarantine. But she's going to kind of come on and be truthful with you about what's going on in the mortgage side of things in the world, but also tell you that, everything's finite and what we're going to do to kind of push through it and give you great knowledge nuggets, because by the time this podcast kind of rolls out, we're going to be kind of coming out of it, hopefully. And then that way you can kind of see, how to move forward with your life from maybe a mortgage standpoint, whether you live here in South Florida or other states as well. So Melainey, we did a few deals together. She's very, very, very veteran friendly. She's a wife, mother, friend. She's a former golf professional who happens to write mortgages on a full-time basis. So Melainey, please come on and introduce yourself. But first, tell us your favorite color and why.
Pink. It's cheery.
Pink is cheery. I love it. I love it. And pink fits you perfect. She is cheery. She's always got a smile on her face, no matter what the situation. She's fantastic. And again, with all full disclosure, again, we are friends and we did business together. So she's fantastic. She does a lot for the community here in South Florida. So Melainey, take us back to your origins a little bit about where you started getting into saying, I'm going to be a mortgage broker full time and be a damn good one at that.
Yeah, so kind of a crazy story. So when my son was born in 2002, I was still in the golf business, and I started getting involved in real estate and mortgages. It was super hot time at that time.
Printing money, right?
Pretty much. So it was like a friend of mine, we were buying and flipping houses, and she's like, oh, if you get involved in mortgages, we can have the money side covered and we can have the real estate side covered. So I did, and I was a mortgage broker then, was involved for probably 3 or 4 years, had a great mentor, but it was crazy. I mean, you just basically had to have a pulse and show up and sign your name and you could get a loan. It was absolutely insane. And then as we progressed into 06, 07, leading into 08, I could kind of see the handwriting on the wall, and I had an opportunity to go back in the golf business, which I did. And then, coming, fast forward to 2015, some things were winding down and I was ready to step back from golf and had an opportunity to go back into mortgages. So I did. It was a completely different animal in 2015 versus what it was. I almost feel like I didn't have any mortgage experience when I came back in 2015.
Thanks, Doc.
So yeah, it's correct. So I took a role as an assistant for about 10, 11 months. And then moved into a full-time loan officer, originating on my own. Took the time, to make sure I was reaffiliating myself with guidelines, how to do business, in the new, everything was fully documented versus you could just basically sign your name. So, you know, that's really my morph coming back. You know, it was interesting because I really wasn't sure I wanted to get back involved, and I hemmed and hawed a lot, but I'm super glad that I did. It's been an amazing 3.5 years, whatever it is. And, you know, I've been blessed to have a couple of really great coaches, and, you know, taking, as I do with everything, I go in with both feet and don't look back. So I've just been super blessed with great coaching, some great accounts, some great real estate partners like yourself. And, you know, I'm just doing the best I can.
Absolutely fantastic mortgage broker, very communicative and whatnot. And as being a real estate agent, that's super key. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts with mortgage lending during our quote unquote pandemic right now, the direction it's going, what people should be watching out for.
Well, it's tightening. So leading up to the pandemic, guidelines were actually starting to loosen up, and now guidelines are tightening. A lot of it has to do with the CARES Act, and that the government put in place some practices so that people could get relief. But as the government generally does, they don't do everything all the way. And because they didn't set it up that you had to prove that you needed forbearance, you know, you've got people that need to go into forbearance, don't fully understand what forbearance is. And you have people that don't necessarily need to go into forbearance, but they hear the media saying, hey, you can skip mortgage payments for 3 months, and they're not fully explaining the consequences of those actions. So just as a public service announcement, forbearance is a mechanism where you can skip payments for however many months, but when that forbearance period ends, you're going to have to make up all of those payments in one lump sum. So in my opinion, it doesn't make any sense, because if you didn't have $2,000 in May and you go into forbearance for May, June, July and come out of it in August, now you have to come out $2,000, $4,000, $8,000. So if I didn't have $2,000, I don't know how I'm going to have $8,000. So it's really important that if you need help, that you call your servicer and you ask a bunch of questions. And you're really looking for words like deferment. If they will allow you to go in deferment, like they do with your cars or credit cards, which is they basically put the lump sum on the end, that's helpful, because you truly get payments, they get added on. So instead of having 30 years left, you have 30 years and 3 months.
Okay. So what kind of questions, if someone's calling their servicer, which is a great recommendation. I have a couple clients right now. I probably need to do that. Tell them what kind of questions, or how should they start that dialogue with the servicer?
Well, you need to call them up and ask them what their circumstances for helping you are. So are they putting you in forbearance? Do they have a deferment option? And then whatever conversation ensues, number one, don't do anything on the first phone call. I know it's hard because it's taking longer to get to live people, but you want to call back again. And then you want to pretty much demand that it comes in writing, because I mean, I hate to say this, but you know, when you're calling 800 numbers, you don't really know if you're getting a person in the United States, if you're getting somebody out of the country. So I'm asking, you know, it's like, you know, measure twice, cut once type of a thing. So I call twice and then ask for it to come in writing. And again, the big thing is look for words like deferment. And then if you do talk about forbearance, ask key questions. Does that mean all of my money is due at the end of the period? Am I going to be able to go into a payment plan option at the end of the forbearance period?
And get that in writing.
Correct. Are you going to negatively report on my credit report? Because the media is out there telling everybody that it's not, and that's what the government is saying. And if we remember back into 2008, they mucked it up then. Is a pretty large chance it's going to get mucked up. I mean, I don't want to be negative, but we're all trying.
You're being real. Absolutely.
Right. We're all trying to just say, look, let's be realistic. We're dealing with the government. They do a lot of great things, but they muck stuff up. So
sure.
I mean, because we're already seeing people filing or asking to go into forbearance, not fully understanding what it means or their terms, and then calling to refinance. You cannot refinance your current loan if you've gone into forbearance.
Gotcha.
That's a big thing. And then
They see
coming
that
out of
low
forbearance,
rate out there, and they're like, "Oh, we want
right.
to refi Melainey," and you're like, "Well, you're in forbearance."
100%.
So,
Yeah.
that's
So unfortunately, that's becoming my first question. Have you gone into forbearance? Because if you have, we're dead in the water.
gotcha. And what to you, like, okay, so you had when we were all back there printing money, and you
Mm-hmm.
know my story with that,
Mm-hmm.
and with my tax issues, which I'm very candid about and transparent about on my podcast. But when you were back there and you print money and you took I want to call it a break because you worked your butt off in the golf world, but then
Mm-hmm.
you kind of came back in 2015 and the changes with Dodd-Frank and the restrictions and whatnot. What do you think, because of your experience, makes a
Mm-hmm.
great mortgage broker?
Communication.
Communication?
You don't have to know everything, but you have to know how to communicate good news, and you have to know how to deliver bad news. And I think delivering bad news as fast as you deliver good news, especially in a real estate partner relationship, is super important. And same thing with your client. Nobody wants to be dragged through the mud and learn on day 27 of a 30-day close that their loan's falling apart.
Yeah, and that is an agent. Like Melainey is literally my first mortgage broker I've had on my podcast, because I like her conversation. I like that she believes in no slow no's. And what I mean by slow no's is like, we'll wait and then we'll give the bad news later. It'd be like, no, let's tackle it and see if there's a problem now. And the way that her company does is she writes it up front so she knows that this is going to close unless something catastrophic happens. That's great that you said communication. Thank you for being a great communicator. So if
My pleasure.
I'm out networking, and again, this is all kind of facetious for me because I'm in the world for 22 years,
Right.
straight in the real estate world. But if I'm out networking or someone else is out networking and someone's saying something, how would we know that they are a good prospect, contact, connection, or referral for you?
Well, anybody who owns a home, is looking to buy a home, is a good referral, because if they own a home, there's 100% chance that there's a refinance opportunity for them. And if they're obviously looking to buy a home, they could possibly not be paying cash and need financing assistance, or even if they do pay cash, they can do things like delayed financing so that they can use their cash flows quickly and then take advantage of low rates after.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So that's great. So if someone's thinking, hey, you know what, my daughter's graduating college, looking to purchase a home, I'd be like, hey, I got a great person for her to start her journey with. That's fantastic. So let's get in our DeLorean. Let's get in, hang out with some Marty McFly. Let's go back in time. What kind of life knowledge nuggets are you dropping on the 22-year-old Melainey?
Oh, God. Dropping on the 22-year-old Melainey. Just keep going, everything balls to the wall. I mean, if you...
Almost spit my coffee because that's you. That's awesome.
I mean, just, hit the ground and run. I mean, I have an 18-year-old son who's getting ready to go to college. We have these types of conversations all the time. He and my husband both, we don't want, as all parents, we don't want our kids to make the same mistakes that we do.
Sure.
And I think the biggest thing for me looking back is just not having any fear and just, put your head down and go. Don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about the outcome. Focus on the process.
Love that. So just keep being persistent. If you fail forward.
Correct.
Just keep persisting. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So you've did a lot in the mortgage industry, a lot in the golf industry. What is the one big thing that Melainey wants to accomplish in life?
Oh, man, what a big thing I want to accomplish in life. I just want to be a good mom, a good wife, and a good person, and just, hopefully make some money along the way. And
just like your bio said. I'm a wife, mother, friend. I love that.
I just, I've got aging parents, just want to make sure that they're set and taken care of. I want to be able to hit the golf course, just looking for the well-balanced existence and, fulfilling happiness as much as possible, because we only get to go around the earth once. So. Right.
Gotcha.
So I'm pretty simple.
But you're simple but driven, and I love that about you. So, like, is there anything that you wish your son, we'll say your son, I can't believe he's 18 because we've known each other 4 or 5 years, I think, right?
That's crazy.
So like right when I think you might have even still been processing when I first met you and moving your way back to mortgage brokering.
Yep.
your son's 18. Is there any question that you wish he would ask you, but just never does, about life?
Well, he's pretty open, so he asks us just about everything, which I'm super grateful that he feels comfortable enough that he does. The biggest thing that I see in him that I wish for him is that he just lets the fear go and just runs after whatever it is that he wants. And even if you're not sure, just run after it anyway.
I love that, Melainey. That's phenomenal. So
he's a good kid.
We're going to take our cell phone out. We're going to take our computer out of the equation, any kind of communicative device. Those are all out. What are 3 things Melainey cannot live without?
Golf. My husband. I mean, do I take out my family too? So I
just say golf and family, and then give me a third.
Golf, family, and give me a third. I think writing.
Writing? Okay.
Yeah.
You better watch it with me. You should say real estate agents on that.
Exactly.
Hey,
well, that's part of the phone, though.
What music or album ever, because you and I are right around the same genre, same age. So what music or album blew your mind?
Blew my mind. Blew my mind. Probably the Michael Jackson type of stuff.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like, the Thriller album's like, what is happening? We look back now how transforming that time was for our lives, and like these kids now, they're like, so like I don't want to take it for granted, but they did not go through the transition that we did. I mean, in
Jaws. Look at Jaws. Jaws is like the scariest thing ever, and it's like so funny to watch them now.
Yeah. So, what is Melainey's definition of a life well lived?
I think being satisfied with who you are and knowing, being comfortable in your own skin, having a spouse that loves you as much as you love them, and just wanting to walk through it all together.
What's the secret to that? Because you've been with your husband
25 years.
25 years? Yeah, quarter century. So what is the secret to that, Melainey?
I think communication, honestly. I mean, the ironic part is he's generally communicating more than I am, probably because I'm talking all day. But, I just think, when things are going good, they're going good. When things are going rough, that's when you've got to buckle down and know that whatever it is temporary, and you got to keep talking.
Keep that open line of communication open both ways.
Yeah,
right?
You got to be honest. You got to be honest about what you're thinking and what you're feeling, and know that this too shall pass. But it's talking is such a big thing.
I love that. And what have you learned internally about Melainey during this quarantine time?
You gotta be calm. You just gotta
chill. Right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You gotta just take it one day at a time and know that this too shall pass.
Beautiful. So, okay, we're going to move into our leveling up lightning round. You and I have had lunch, drinks, hung out together. Every one of these questions, you and I could talk for 15, 20 minutes, easy. But
Absolutely.
My producers in my ear and in my face right now is saying 5 seconds. You have 5 seconds for each answer. They're easy.
Okay.
You can answer them, I promise you. You ready?
Okay. Yep, I'm ready.
Here we go. What's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
To be calm. Just to be calm.
Love it. What's one of your personal habits that contributes to your success?
Getting up and being grateful every day, first thing.
Love that. Not the flavor of the month book, not the book that everyone's talking about, not one you're reading now. What's the one book that just, boom, it hit you and it sticks in you for your whole life?
It by Craig Groeschel.
It by Craig Groeschel.
The It Factor by Craig Groeschel.
I was going to say, was you going to say Stephen King? I'm like, that's awesome. So what's your favorite charity and or organization you like to give your time and or money to?
Anything that helps veterans.
Love that. Love it. And last question, the best decade of music, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
80s.
80s. There you go. There you go. Melainey, how can we find you?
Well, my cell phone, 561-371-1107, and Melainey@gmail.com.
Love that. And then you have you can also visit her at signatureml.com.
Yep.
Is where her loan officer webpage with Signature Mortgage Lending, which is fantastic. Melainey, leave us with just one knowledge nugget that you want our Time to Shine Today podcast squad to walk away with, internalize, and keep.
Real estate related?
Life or real estate?
Life related. Well, I like the kind of the theme of this whole podcast is, this too shall pass. And I just think, for our real estate people out there, just to know that the real estate market was strong coming into the pandemic. It's going to be strong coming out of the pandemic. There's a lot of stats out there. The millennials are starting to start. Yeah, there's a lot of stats out there. Millennials are starting families. And as soon as they start a family, there's an 80% chance that they're going to want to buy a home. And we had a housing shortage coming into this. We're not going to not have a housing shortage coming out. So real estate's going to stay strong.
I love that. And love it. And squad, you've had some serious knowledge nuggets dropped on you by my friend Melainey Gunning. She is balls to the wall, which I'm loving it that you laid that out there. She's telling you to let go of the fear and go. Persist. If you fail forward. And if you're looking for a fantastic lender, especially if you're in South Florida, and if you're not here, do you lend in anywhere else, Melainey?
The whole state of Florida, and then I'm in the process of getting licensed in a couple of other states.
Okay, so, but even if you're listening to this podcast and you want a referral out of the state of Florida, ring up Melainey at 561-371-1107. And Melainey, as always, I feel better after talking to you. I feel more calm. I know that this too shall pass. And now you're part of the Time to Shine Today podcast squad. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. Super exciting.
Awesome. Talk soon.
Thanks, Scott.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter & Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.